Hey, what's up folks? How's it going? This is Waj. Hope you guys are all doing well. And what you're looking at right now is the HP Omen X gaming desktop. Now, this is pretty much one of the most unique looking computers out right now. It's a custom bespoke design with several novel features that really hasn't been demonstrated in other gaming slash desktop PC platforms. Firstly, as you can see, the PC tower is in a cube formation and it's rotated at a 45-degree angle, thus giving it its interesting stance, as well as from a functional standpoint, there is a toolless method of opening the side panel of the case, and therefore you can service your parts really easily without having to bend down like a traditional desktop gaming PC tower. Now, another important detail is the tri-chamber design. So essentially, the Omen tower is actually split up to three different regions, the largest region being where you would store your motherboard, your GPU, and your CPU, and directly behind that region on the upper portion is where you would house all your hard drives and SSDs, which are located in these four hot swappable bays, and these are also toolless configured, so it's really easy to install drives in and out of the system. And directly underneath this region is pretty much where all the excess cables are stored, as well as the power supply unit. Now, the cool thing about having these isolated chambers is that the ventilation system is independent from one another. So essentially, your hard drives don't get affected by the heat that your CPU and GPU generates. Same thing with any excess heat that's generated from the power supply unit. Each chamber has its own dedicated fan and has its own airflow for intake and exhaust. Now, in addition to that, we also have an Omen all-in-one liquid CPU cooler, and with a top-mounted radiator, the exhaust of your CPU heat is just going to be ventilated straight to the top. So therefore, the temperature of your CPU shouldn't really affect the performance of your GPU, and vice versa. And if you ever decide on water cooling your GPU, you also have room for a couple of radiators at the top of the case, so you can get even better thermal isolation and overall performance. Directly at the bottom of the PC case is a slide-out Blu-ray / optical drive, which is actually really easy to access if you still use optical or Blu-ray disc for your PC. Additionally, at the front of the case, you can see that there's RGB lighting integrated. There's actually 9 individual lighting zones, and you can control the illumination in 4 different color modes, and you can control all this using the pre-installed Omen lighting control app in Windows. Furthermore, there's actually a handy little toolkit right behind the Omen logo on the PC. So that includes a 2-sided screwdriver set, as well as 15 replacement screws. So if you lose a screw or want to replace a part, it's really easy to do with this toolkit directly embedded in the PC case. Now, in addition to the tower itself, there's also a Omen feature lineup of peripherals partnered with SteelSeries, and many of these peripherals are tried and true, industry grade, developed by professional esports teams. She got the opportunity to test out the Omen headset, which is actually very similar to the Siberia 200, and it's a really lightweight headset with a retractable microphone. It contains a 50mm neodymium driver that has a fairly wide frequency response range from 10 to 28,000 hertz. The Omen keyboard that you're looking at right now is very similar to the Apex 350, so it's a membrane-based keyboard. It actually feels very responsive and tactile. It also has 5 independent RGB lighting zones, as well as some neat lighting on the side of the keyboard. And with all the custom buttons you can configure, you can really make this keyboard your own. The Omen mouse and mouse pad gives you really accurate overall tracking, especially with that large non-slip pad. You have tons of real estate to move your mouse freely wherever you want. And the mouse itself is the Rival 300 from SteelSeries with the Omen branding. And you can also custom configure the RGB lighting in here, and you have a CPI or DPI rating of over 6500, so plenty of sensitivity for most people out there. Now, in terms of PC specifications, you can obviously configure the Omen X in a couple of different ways. We have something that's a little bit more akin to a higher-end desktop gaming PC. All the systems have Windows 10 pre-installed, as well as a 6th generation Intel Core i7 6700K, which is probably one of the best overall gaming CPU you can get right now. In terms of memory, we have 32 gigabytes of DDR4, which is plenty enough for gaming, and obviously you can add more. more as you go along. In terms of storage configuration, 3 terabyte mechanical hard drive, as well as a super fast PCI Express Gen 3 M.2 drive from Samsung, the SM951, which has over 2 gigabytes sequential read speeds and about 1.2 gigabytes in terms of write performance. So very, very fast SSD for your main software and your operating system. Additionally, in terms of graphics card, we have the top tier Founders Edition of the GTX 1080, which is one of the fastest GPUs available right now and especially optimized for a high detail 4K gaming experience as well as a seamless VR gaming experience. Beyond those things, in terms of networking, we have a built-in 802.11 AC 2x2 wireless chip as well as Bluetooth 4.0 built into the system as well. Now, the last thing that we're going to go over is my benchmark performance results for this system. So we're going to talk about the CPU first, dealing with the 6700K processor. It's really easy to get a 4.6 to 4.7 gigahertz overclock without putting the voltage too high, usually around 1.3 volts. And with that, our cooler managed to keep things relatively cool, 76 degrees C in terms of peak load temperatures of a sustained period of time. In terms of the actual performance results, the Cinebench R15 yielded about 1026 points. The Geekbench 3 single thread performance results is just around 5,000 and just under 20,000 in terms of the multi-core performance. So relatively good overall for a 6700K processor. Now moving forward, the main purpose of most people getting this PC is going to be for gaming, whether that be 4K or VR based. Now with a GTX 1080, in terms of the VR capabilities, we get a top score of 11 points using the Steam VR benchmarking software. And in terms of the TimeSpy DirectX 12 synthetic benchmark, we get a solid score of just under 7,500 points. Beyond the synthetic benchmark results, I did manage to play a handful of newer titles available in DirectX 11 and 12, mostly DirectX 12 titles. And as you can see in full 3840 by 2160 native resolution at pretty much a high to relatively high overall details on all of these gaming titles were well above or around 50 to 60 FPS with the exception of Rise of the Tomb Raider, which hovers around 47.1 average frames per second. But of course, if you want more, you can always throw in another GTX 1080. You have more than enough power to do so in this system and an extra expansion port that will support SLI or Crossfire configurations. But really, other than that, guys, that's really it. Generally speaking, you can see that the Omen X gaming desktop offers a lot. Now, certainly you are getting a pre-built system, which has its pros and cons. Certainly in terms of the pros, it's very convenient. You can order right then and there on HP's website exactly what you want, and you'll get a pristinely built, very cleanly laid out system that you'll have for several years that you can even upgrade as time goes on. The only thing that you're going to kind of pay is the little bit of extra cost for having a bespoke design, a custom configuration, as well as the cost involved of building an actual gaming PC for the mass consumers out there. But I think generally speaking, it's certainly worth the money if you don't want to bother with building your own system, if you don't have the time and you want to get something with excellent warranty and overall service. So if you're in the market for a new gaming PC and want something pre-built and going to set you off from the rest of the gaming community, definitely check out the Omen X. But really on that, guys, that's really it. Thanks again for watching. If you have any specific questions, let me know, and we'll see you later. Take care.